Christina. I am Whilst Iris Snaps on Instagram and Whilst Iris Snaps Designs, and this is a video about cross stitch. This is video number 17 and what will be my last video of the year, and there is a little bit of a Christmas theme going on given that I have my Christmas tree up in the background, but please don't look too closely. This is the tree that my children decorated. I'm wearing my Christmas jumper and I have a lovely cuppa in my personalised Emma Bridgewater mug. So what am I going to share with you in this festive edition? Well, I have some stitching from the archives and it's a Christmas stitch from my mum. I have the Christmas exchange that I did with my Stitchy BFF April. I have quite a bit of Stitchy kindness to share, some of which has a Christmas theme. I have two new, or should I say newish releases, Ann Atkinson 1868 and my All Is Bright drum. And then I'll be finishing with a giveaway to celebrate reaching 6,000 subscribers since my last video. So, should we get cracking? First up is stitching from the archives, and as already mentioned, this is a stitched piece from my mum. And this is called Winter Sampler, which was a kit by Jan Lynn that I purchased for Mum for Christmas a good few years ago. And she managed to get it stitched up in just a couple of months during one of the COVID lockdowns. I don't remember which one, they've all kind of blended into one now. Didn't she do an amazing job? All of that back stitch. It's a good job she doesn't mind doing it. And Mum did use the fabric and the thread that came with the kit. It looks like a 16 count Ada to me, but she did inadvertently change some of the colours. I think several of the symbols on the chart are fairly similar, so she got a bit mixed up with some of the colours, but I don't think you can tell, and even if you can, well, it adds character, doesn't it? And she changed Mont Blanc, which is charted, to Alaska to commemorate the time that she and my dad lived in Anchorage in the early 2000s. Quite a while ago I posted a photograph of this finish to my Instagram page, and Cooler Design Studio got in touch with me to let me know that they now distribute the chart, and I think it is the chart as opposed to the kit, so I will put a link to their website below. There are 3 others in the series, a spring, a summer and an autumn, but I think one was enough for my mum. Those that follow me on Instagram may have seen that I am sharing an ornament today in the run up to Christmas, and a few days ago I shared this very pretty ornament, which is actually an ornament that I received in an exchange that I participated in around 5 years ago. It's stitched by Stephanie, who is Blue Star Stitcher 79 on Instagram. And the eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that it is actually the top right portion of the winter sampler. Such an ingenious idea. I really ought to do this more often myself. And this winter sampler alone, there are so many different elements that would lend themselves to ornaments. That's Santa, perhaps if you stitched it on a higher count, and the snowman, and this lovely snow globe. I should stitch this gingerbread man for my gingerbread themed tree that I've yet to put up yet. Bah humbug. So yes, I'm really enjoying sharing my ornaments, so look out for a few more of those in the week or so we have left until Christmas. Now to the Christmas exchange that I did with my Stitchy BFF April, who is April May June Stitcher on Instagram. And this Christmas, April and I decided that we were going to stitch each other an ornament from the Just Cross Stitch ornament issue from way back in 2004. And I know I'm not alone in thinking that these older issues are absolute classics, just jam-packed with incredible designers and fabulous charts. And as you can see, I've picked out several that I would like to stitch for myself. I would highly recommend this edition of the magazine if you don't already own it yourself. I only recently purchased this one from eBay and it was very inexpensive and in really good condition, or it was until I got my hands on it. So without further ado, this is what April stitched for me. Isn't it beautiful? This is called Folk House Topiary and it's a designer that I'd never heard of before. It's Brown House Studio. And April chose her own colours. She actually used silks and a metallic. As you can see, the stems of the flower and the stars are metallic. How's that for friendship for you? I'm not sure I would have done the same. I hate stitching with metallic thread. But yes, she's stitched it on 40 count, so it's super tiny too. I'd already hinted to April that this was my favourite ornament in the issue, and she said she didn't want to go for the obvious choice, but she did in the end, and I'm so pleased that she decided to. I just love it. And let me show you the ornament. It's in its original colours. That's it there. So quite different. But given that the design is 20 or almost 20 years old, I really don't think it's aged at all. As I said, there are just some fabulous, fabulous designs in this issue. So what did I decide to stitch for April? Well, there is a story, because there always is when it comes to me. I'll show you what I decided to stitch for April in the magazine. Here it is. It's Peace Tree by Design. Such a gorgeous chart. And it's called Peace Tree because if you tilt it on its side, as you can see, it spells out peace, and then it's reflected on the other side. The called for fabric was 30 count. So I thought to myself, firstly, to impress April, I was going to stitch it on 40 count because she knows that I'm not really a fan of the higher count fabrics, and this would also make it super tiny. And I chose to stitch it on 40 count water green by Wishelt using Belsoir Chester's blue. So off I started, was making really good progress, and I thought it's quite a bit bigger than I thought it was going to be. So I read the instructions and then discovered that it should have actually been stitched over one on 30 count. Who reads instructions before they start? Well, clearly not me. So I decided that I was just going to crack on and get it finished, and my lovely husband at the very last minute made a frame, and we went with a frame to finish instead of an ornament. And at the bottom I added a tag by Tim Holtz that says Peace on Earth, which I thought was appropriate given that it's the peace tree. Have I learned my lesson? Will I read instructions before I start something in the future? Probably not, but it all worked out okay in the end. April seemed to like what I sent, even though it was a framed finish rather than the ornament that I'd promised. And thank you so much, April. I have really enjoyed our exchanges this year. I think that this one was our best yet, although I realise we say this every time, and I'm really looking forward to our birthday exchange next year. Now to some Stitchy kindness that I've received, and I'm going to attempt to share them in the order that I received them. So let's see how that goes. First is a beautiful pincushion from my friend Teresa, who is Jersey Girl Stitches on Instagram. And Teresa personalised the pincushion by stitching Floss Friends and then adding the year 2021, which is when she started to watch my FlossTube videos. I love that personalisation. And then on the reverse, she's stitched both of our names over one. I'm very impressed. Also included were these lovely counting pins, and I'm sure you've already seen Teresa's business before, where she and her daughter make counting pins. Their business is Jersey Girl Stitch Co, and this is their business card. I love the All Country Roses design that's on the front of your business card, Teresa. This is a set that my mum has, and she uses it every Sunday when we go for lunch and tea. From Alison, who is the Stitching Whippet on Instagram, my stitchy friend from Suffolk, I received some cottage garden thread in the colour Nightshade. And the reason Alison sent this is because she stitched my black sampler 2021 monochromatically using this colour, and I happened to comment how stunning it was, and she said, I'm more than happy to send what's left. So here we are. I'm so pleased you did, Alison, and I will pop a photograph of Alison's finish of the black sampler in here. From Sharon, who is Shaz Bruce on Instagram, I received a couple of pieces of 38 count linen, and this is because Sharon and I had been having a conversation about how I love stitching on 36 count linen, but sometimes I'm unhappy with the coverage, particularly with darker threads, but that I'm not comfortable enough stitching on 40 count linen all of the time. So Sharon had suggested giving 38 count a go and had a couple of pieces spare for me to try. So thank you so much, Sharon, and I love the card you sent. Isabel Swan, 1738. That's a very lovely Scottish sampler. I must look out for that one. From Jill, who is Swanky Sim on Instagram, I received the Thomas Jewett sampler. And Jill knew I would love this sampler because I have never stitched a sampler stitched by a boy before, but also because my husband's name is Thomas, or Tom, which also happens to be the name of needleworker Ellen's husband. And the reason I mention this is because Thomas's chart came to me via Ellen. Jill sent to Ellen, Ellen sent to me, and Ellen stitched this up in no time at all. And I'm sure those who follow Ellen's beautiful sampler work, that will come as no surprise at all. And of course, because no chart can travel alone, Ellen also included one of her own reproduction samplers. Sorry, I hope you're not getting the glare there. And this is Rebecca Price, 1825. Such a pretty sampler. And this is another first for me, Ellen. I've never stitched an American sampler before. So thank you so much for your generosity, not just in sending the chart, but also in including a little note of some tips on how to stitch Thomas's house. It is, shall we say, a bit of a doozy. Apparently Thomas likes stitching over 1, over 2, over 3 and everything in between. So Ellen very kindly included some tips on how she tackled that. A few weeks ago, I received this delightful Christmas pudding card from Lou, who is Patient Stitcher on Instagram. And Lou is a fellow stitcher that fully appreciates my Christmas pudding obsession, though it did make me laugh, Lou, that in your card you'd written, I wouldn't care, I don't even like to eat Christmas pudding. No, nor do I, but I'm so pleased that my Christmas pudding obsession has rubbed off onto you too. I've now got Lou looking out for Christmas pudding charts and Christmas pudding decorations. And she also included a paper quilling decoration And I don't have one of these on my tree, so that will be a very welcome addition. Thank you, Lou. And I'm also going to remove this, is it knitted or crocheted? I initially thought crocheted decoration. I'm going to see if I can peel it off and add a hanger to it, and that will go on my tree too. Continuing with the Christmas pudding theme, from Trisha, who is Preb407 on Instagram, I received the most perfect ornament for me. Isn't it adorable? It's perfectly stitched and it's perfectly finished. I love everything about it. And what makes it even more special to me is that it travelled here to the UK all the way from my former home state of Illinois. I got very excited when I saw the address label, Trisha. And Trisha tells me that the designer is, and oh my goodness, I hope I don't butcher this, Crocetta Agogo, and it's from their advent calendar, day 18, should you wish to stitch it for yourself. And Trisha, you wrote the loveliest note. I will treasure it forever. Please tell me I'm not the only one that keeps every letter or card that's ever been written to them. Now to my two new-ish releases. First is Mary Ann Atkinson 1868, and I bought Mary Ann's sampler along with this fabulous sampler that sits behind me while I film my FlossTube videos. This sampler was stitched by Margaret Slowe in Chorley, Lancashire in 1839. I will show it in full one day. As I said, it is a fabulous sampler. It features a schoolhouse, a red schoolhouse, and it's the only schoolhouse sampler in my collection, so I'm sure I will get around to reproducing it one day, she says. And because I was able to get a full family history of Margaret Slowe's, I had hoped that there would be some kind of familial link between Margaret's and Mary Ann's, but after extensive research, I think it's safe to say there isn't a link. I think it's just a case of somebody having bought two samplers that they liked. So sadly, without any other clues, I'm afraid I haven't been able to identify our stitcher Mary Ann Atkinson. As you can imagine, there were many Mary Ann Atkinsons born in the mid-19th century here in the UK. Anyway, she will remain a mystery, but that doesn't make me like her sampler any the less. Let me show you Mary Ann's original sampler. And I haven't removed it from the frame, so you are going to get glare, I'm afraid. And I'm not sure if you can tell on the screen, but Mary Ann stitched her sampler using wool, and she used cotton thread for her name. I just love this sampler. My favourite part being the tri-coloured flowers, and then I really love the band that's just underneath the alphabet there. That was really lovely to stitch too. And I'll put this down because it weighs a ton, and I'll show you my reproduction. And as you can see, my reproduction is much smaller. I stitched it on 36 count parchment from Weeks Dye Works, and it's almost square. It's 173 by 164 stitches, and I used all Weeks Dye Works threads, but as always I do provide a DMC conversion. I'll give you a close-up of my model. There again, the fabulous striped flowers. I love all of the red that Mary Ann used too. There are no speciality stitches, it's all cross stitch, so it's suitable to be stitched on linen or Aida. And didn't my husband do another fabulous job with the framing? Another shout out, Tom. How many is that this video? If you're getting a big head. So yes, Mary Ann's sampler can be downloaded from my website. I will show you the chart, not making too much of a clunk and a clatter. My second new release is the All is Bright drum, and this has been more than 2 years in the making. I first released my All is Calm pin drum just before Christmas 2020, and at the time I knew exactly how I wanted its sister chart, All is Bright, to look. It's just taken me more than 2 years to get around to chart, stitch and finish it. But that's just how things go sometimes, isn't it? But it's finished now and I'm really thrilled with how it's turned out. This is my All is Bright drum. I'll give the drum a bit of a twirl so you can see the stars along the side there. I think they're my favourite part of this drum. And as I said, as pleased as I am with it, I will admit to having a bit of a wobble when I was stitching it. It just seemed so long. I said to my husband, this drum is going to be the size of a dinner plate. Nobody's going to want to stitch this. But as you can see, it's actually more the size of a tea plate. Much more manageable. However, if stitching a drum with a circumference of more than 15 inches overwhelms you, I have included in the chart a smaller version that I think would make a really lovely pin drum, or even just a smaller version of the drum. So many different options. And speaking of options, as much as I love the tin roof fabric that I used for both the All is Calm and All is Bright drums, I did wonder how the design might look on a darker fabric. So using the smaller version of the chart, I produced a mock-up, and I will put in a photograph here. The pins that you can see in the drum are a set that I purchased from a website here in the UK called Stitch Mania Stash. And I'd happened to message Michelle one Monday morning with some very vague ideas, and she put together various options for me. I chose one, these, and then I also chose a scissor fob to match because no pins should have to travel alone. And before the end of the week, they were through my letterbox, so 5-star service. And Michelle has kindly said that anybody purchasing from her website, if you use the code IRISNAPS, you will receive a 10% discount. So thank you so much, Michelle. So what's left to tell you about my All is Bright chart? Well, the design is 280 stitches wide. Yes, 280 by 39 stitches high. The smaller alternative version is just 147 by 39. As I've already mentioned, I stitched the model on 36 count tin roof from Weeks Dye Works using Weeks Dye Works threads. However, as always, I do provide a DMC conversion. If you do decide to stitch the design on a darker fabric, you may need to adapt some of the colours, but that's half the fun of it, isn't it? I have provided within the chart a basic tutorial as to how I finished the drum. And hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. Rather than stitch my trim on, this time I've shown how it can be glued on. And I know a lot of you are going to recoil in horror, but hopefully you know just how particular I am about my finishing. And if I'm being completely honest, I stitched the trim onto my All is Calm drum, and obviously I glued it onto my All is Bright drum, and I don't see a difference in the quality of finish. I know it's more permanent if I glue it on, and perhaps in the future it may discolour, but I do have Christmas ornaments hanging on my tree that I used glue on maybe 20 years ago, and all seems well for now. You just go with which one you prefer. I will also mention it can be stitched on linen or Aida. However, this tree here, you probably won't be able to make it out, but the bottom stitch aligns centrally between the top two. This may be a little fiddly to do on Ada, but it's actually a little fiddly to do on linen. And if you don't really want to do the aligning centrally, you can just move the stitch either one thread to the left or to the right. So I think that's everything. I think I've covered everything. The chart can be downloaded from my website. And finally, to end my video and indeed the year, I have a giveaway. Since releasing video number 16, I have crept up to 6,000 subscribers, which is absolutely wonderful. And to say thank you to those who subscribe and watch and leave such lovely comments for me, I have kitted up one of my beloved out of print Blackbird design charts. And this is a beautiful design called Awake the Dawning Day. I have so many of these out of print charts that are just tucked away in a drawer when they should really be being stitched and enjoyed. I will admit though, I almost had second thoughts when I put these threads together on the fabric. Aren't they gorgeous? Of course they are, Christina. They're for a Blackbird design chart. So if you would like to be in with a chance of winning the kitted up Awake the Dawning Day, could you let me know in the comments what your favourite ever Blackbird design chart is? And I will be looking for the keyword Blackbird, so be sure to include that in your comment. And I'm sure I'm going to really enjoy reading through these comments. Right, so that's it for another year. All that's left for me to say is I hope you have a wonderful and peaceful Christmas, and I will see you again next year. 2023 is going to be a very busy year for Whilst Iris Snaps Designs, and I cannot wait. I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.